Well, hello there. This is Outside the Bubble, episode 26. I'm your host, Joanna Bull, and today I am taking off my teacher hat, and I'm actually going to put on my wellness coaching hat. So, a couple of months ago, I completed a wellness coaching certification, and I had actually decided to start in June of 2018, and I thought I would just power through it and I would be done at the end of the summer and everything would be great. And then guess what happened? I started and I was doing the work and my own shit came up. So I actually had to deal with it because I found out that I had a lot of issues that I wasn't aware of. And a couple of weeks ago, I was at the Connect conference in Niagara Falls, and I was talking to my buddy, Rob Dunlop, who is writing a book. And we were talking about what's in his book, and he was sharing some of the gratitude strategies that he's using and some of the research that he's doing. And I brought up a couple of things that I learned about in my wellness coaching that he hadn't heard of. So I said I would explain them a little bit further. And I thought, why not record a podcast episode on that? Because if Rob was interested, I'm sure there are other people that are interested as well. So this episode today is about a couple of things that I have integrated into my life since I became a wellness coach. The coaching certification that I took looks at coaching towards balance in 4 systems, and those systems are mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And I'm just going to explain what each of those are. So the mental system is your harmony in thought life and thought pattern. The emotional system is emotions and relationships. The physical is health and wellness. And the spiritual is our true self, our personal development and connection to energy or God or a higher power. You don't need to be religious in order to have a spiritual self. And once I learned about these, I realized that the majority of my day-to-day was working towards and existing in the physical body system. I definitely have emotions just like everybody, and I definitely have thought patterns, but I had never really considered them as separate systems or how they were interconnected and what something looked like when it was in balance and what something looked like when it was out of balance. In the wellness coaching, there is 10 overarching principles. So number 1 is to seek. Number 2 is to remain open-hearted and open-minded. Number 3 is be willing to question your ideas, definitions, and beliefs, and let go of the ones that no longer serve you. Number 4 is to be intentional. Number 5 is do all you can do. Only do your best each day, nothing more and nothing less. Number 6 is doing at least 10% is better than doing nothing. All things in balance. Number 7, start where you are. Number 8, take one step at a time. Number 9, do it with love. Number 10, get connected with others who appreciate personal growth and self-development. Number 11, keep going. And number 12, celebrate every small victory. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a party and a friend commented on how much I've changed in the last couple of years, which I thought was interesting because I definitely feel like I have changed as a person. I feel like I operate differently in the world. I'm definitely not where I would like to be, but my body has physically changed. I've lost a bunch of weight. My thought patterns have definitely changed. I feel like I am a more positive person, and I definitely have started to figure out ways to reduce some of the mental chatter, especially the negative mental chatter. For a very long time, I thought I was extremely self-reflective, and really what I discovered through this wellness coaching was that a lot of what I considered to be self-reflection was actually just revisiting things that didn't work. So for example, I might be facilitating a workshop to a group of teachers, and on the drive home, I would reflect upon some of the conversations that maybe were uncomfortable or didn't go the way that I had hoped for. And I thought that was reflection and metacognition when really a lot of it was just sort of like staying with the negative because I wasn't really making an action plan for what I could do instead. I was just sort of like replaying the conversations over and over in my head. And through that, I was bringing myself down and getting myself into a negative thought pattern about like, maybe I should have said this. How did they feel about something? And I was, for a long time, very sensitive to people's reactions to me, especially in a facilitation role where I am often the center of attention. And as an introvert, that's sometimes not the place that I want to be. Although I do like to call myself like an extroverted introvert, because once I get going, I'm good, but it can take me a while to get there. So through this wellness certification, I realized that that actually was not self-reflection, and it was actually doing harm to myself. So that was definitely interesting and eye-opening. So when my friend said that I've changed a lot, the actual thing that she's noticed was around when we went out for brunch just recently, and I had eggs. And a couple of years ago, I was a person who did not eat eggs. Like I would eat them in cakes and I would eat them in things, but actual eggs themselves I didn't really like, and I definitely did not eat eggs that had runny yolks. However, I was having some health issues, and I saw a nutritionist who put me on a very specific diet. Depending on your thought process, it's either extremely healthy or it's very restrictive. And this particular friend found my diet incredibly restrictive. And when we went out to eat recently, she noticed that I ordered eggs and they had runny yolks, whereas previously that's not something I would have done. And I thought that was really interesting that is what she was pinpointing as the major change that she was seeing. So it's funny what you see within yourself and what other people notice. I am going to share the 8 different techniques and tools that I have been incorporating into my life. So the first one is a mindfulness and meditation technique. It is called the see, hear, and feel technique. What I like about this technique is you can do it pretty much anywhere. You do not need to be in a quiet space, sitting on a meditation pillow with candles. You can just be, waiting for the bus. You can be waiting for class to start. You can be listening to your mother-in-law carry on about something. I've never done that. So you can really use this anywhere. And the idea is that you place your energy into one aspect. So, for example, right now I am sitting in my podcasting studio. So if I was going to get into this technique, I would start with either seeing, hearing, or feeling. So it could be what I'm seeing right now is the purple foam on the wall to reduce like the noise in the room. So I would just spend some time seeing that. And then I would pay attention to where my attention goes to next. So for example, there's this buzzing sound in the room. And when I noticed that, I would allow myself to listen to the buzzing sound. And then the feel technique is really the feeling within your body. So right now, my fingers are actually quite cold. So I would focus on that. Or my shoulder is a little bit sore from my workout yesterday. So I would feel that until your attention shifts to something else. When you start doing this technique, it's actually really good practice to name what it is that you're either seeing, hearing, or feeling. So for example, I might state, see the wall, hear the buzzing, feel cold fingers. Now, it doesn't need to be in any particular order. You're just noticing where your attention goes and what you're paying attention to. You can also try to direct your attention to something and see if you can stay with it. And the reason that I really like this technique is because it allows you to pay attention to something, but also really gives you permission for your mind to wander. There's this misconception that with mindfulness and with meditation that you need to clear your mind. And that's absolutely not true. It's almost impossible to clear your mind. Things will come into attention the moment you try to not pay attention. So mindfulness and meditation is not about clearing your mind, but it's about focusing. And with the see, hear, and feel technique, I enjoyed in the beginning doing it while I was walking my dog, which I do every morning alone. I enjoyed doing it just when I lay down to go to sleep, just really paying attention to my surroundings. You can do it with your eyes open. You can do it with your eyes closed. There's really no right or wrong way to do it. And you can also do it in what's called a micro hit. So a micro hit is a short amount of time, and then anything over 10 minutes is considered like a concentrated practice. I might do the hear, see, and feel technique like several times throughout the day, just as micro hits as I'm standing in line at the grocery store. And it really just calms the body and brings attention. So I encourage you to give that one a try. It was really fantastic for me when I started it. I don't use it as much as I did because now I have other techniques that I'm really enjoying, but that was the first one for me that I was really able to like sink my teeth into and really activate that particular aspect of my mindfulness practice. Now, it is considered a mindfulness meditation, so give that one a try. It's called the see, hear, and feel technique, and it's incredibly great. The second technique that I've been integrating is a mindfulness technique, and it's called the loving kindness technique. Now, the loving kindness technique is also a technique that you could do just any point in your day, although you really do want to make sure you have some time. And by time, I mean 7 minutes. So 7 minutes of your day where you are able to work specifically on this. However, that 7 minutes can be done while you're driving. It can be done while you're waiting for the bus. I now do this specific technique when I'm walking my dog in the morning. And the reason that you want to have 7 minutes, and again, you don't need to use like a timer for it, but the 7 minutes is actually proven to increase gray matter in the brain when you practice the love and kindness technique over a duration of approximately 20 days. So MRIs have shown that 7 minutes of loving kindness for 20 days, along with actually 8 minutes of meditation, so we're looking at 15 minutes in total, increase the gray matter in the brain, which I think is incredibly fascinating. And you can look up studies on that. I've heard it from more than one place. I'm not going to quote anything specifically here. You can do your own investigation. But the idea behind the loving kindness technique, so I do this in the morning when I'm walking my dog. And it's really interesting. I've been doing it long enough now that as soon as I'm sort of outside and I start walking, my brain automatically goes to the technique. It's now a habit. It wants to go there and do it. So the idea is that you are going to decide on a couple of things for yourself that you're going to begin with. Now, some people might consider these affirmations, but they are not. So the idea is that you think about a couple of things for yourself that you would like. I tend to do them based on the day and based on what I'm entering into that day. So if I know I have a chunk of work time where I really need to sit and be focused, one of my pieces might be, may you be focused. And I normally pick around 3 particular traits that I want to focus on for the day. So they might be something like, may you be focused, may you be calm, may you be brave. Or may you be strong, may you be determined, may you be energetic. And it's really whatever 3 traits come to you, and you just repeat those over and over. Now, I don't do it out loud. I just do it in my head. So I'm not walking my dog speaking to myself, but I will walk and I'll say, may you be strong, may you be focused, may you be determined. May you be strong, may you be focused, may you be determined. And I'll do that for around like 3 or 4 minutes. And then the next part of that is you are going to say something to somebody else. So you've done yourself, you've set yourself up, and now you're going to set up somebody else. So it's helpful to start with somebody that you know, a partner, a family member. I often will do the loving kindness to my husband based on what I know he has going on that day. So I'll do myself first, and then I'll say, may Chris, that's his name, may Chris be determined, may Chris be focused, may Chris be brave. And then I'll do that over and over again for the next like 3 or so minutes. Now, the idea behind the loving kindness technique is after you give loving kindness to somebody that you know, you will then be able to go into giving loving kindness to somebody you do not know. So just people that maybe you encounter in your day-to-day that you are going to sort of like wish the best for, put it out into the universe that you're wishing the best for somebody else. So you start with yourself, and then you move into somebody else. And the very first person that was not my husband that I gave the loving kindness to was actually a clerk at the grocery store. And I have no idea why this particular gentleman was the one that came into my mind. He is at a grocery store that I go to often. He's probably in his like late teens, early 20s. And he was just the person that came into my mind. And that was the first person. Sometimes I do it to a driver that, cut me off. Sometimes I'll do it to just somebody I see walking down the street. So really like whoever comes into your mind's eye. It can be to a friend that is going through something. And the idea is really just to like put it out into the world energetically that you hope something for them. And I've been doing that now for a couple of months, pretty much every morning. There's definitely days that I miss, days that I have other things that I'm thinking about where I'll get home from walking the dog and I'm like, oh man, I forgot it. If I don't do it while I'm walking the dog, I do try to put it somewhere else into my life, but I've just found it's a really lovely natural fit. And in the morning, it really it sets up my day. It sets up the day for the intention that I have for myself, which I think is important. It's important to have goals for ourselves. And if one of my goals for the day is to be brave, if something comes up in the day and it's an opportunity for me to step up, to stand up, to speak up, then I'm ready and I'll remind myself of that. It also is helpful for those days when I just don't want to go to the gym after work. And I remind myself that I set myself up for that by setting the intention and basically making a promise to myself in the morning. So that is the loving kindness technique. And you can look that up. There's loads of information online around loving kindness. So the next technique is called the add and reduce model. So when I started this life coaching program, I realized just how out of balance my life was sometimes. So the idea behind the add and reduce model, and there's a number of ways to do it, but you can write down all of the areas of your life that you are interested in exploring. So for example, there's something called the Wheel of Life, and the Wheel of Life has different categories. So category of career, financial, spiritual, physical, mental, family, social, and then I add creative into there. And then you can list out all of the things underneath each aspect that are currently happening or operating within your day-to-day. Now, one thing that I noticed through the life coaching is that when I get really busy in work, I almost always will continue to exercise. It's just exercise is a part of my life. It's something that I do. I might cut back. I might cut down from 5 days a week to 3 days a week, but I will still exercise. It's a promise and commitment that I have to myself that I'm really good with following through. However, if I'm busy in my career, oftentimes I will stop seeing friends. And I won't be great at nurturing relationships. So I might continue to text people, but chances are I'm not going to call my parents and I won't make plans to see anybody. And then time can go by and it'll be like, what's happened? I haven't seen some friends for a really long time, where people will be like, hey, what's going on with you? I haven't heard from you in a while. So I realized that was very out of balance for me. So with the add reduce model, you look at your life holistically and what your priorities are, and you figure out what you need to reduce and what you need to add. So one of my goals for this year was to spend more time with friends. I love my friends. I love hanging out with my friends. However, I'm not always the one who will make plans and set things up. So when I look at what can I reduce in order to add that in, one of the decisions that Chris and I made was to get a cleaning lady. Because if I didn't spend time cleaning, then I might be more likely to go out with friends. Also, you can look at things that you're doing with sort of like your downtime. So, for example, would I rather spend time watching Netflix, or would I rather spend time socializing in the world? Sometimes your answer might be Netflix, but it's important to look at why that's your answer. And if that's your answer, then that's fine, but not that that is my answer because it's a default instead of watching Netflix and cleaning my house. I can open up that time to spend time with friends. Now, I've also said to a number of my friends that one of the struggles I have is actually like making plans for far in the future. And some people sort of rolled their eyes and they were like, well, that's the way life is. We're busy and we have this and that. However, putting that out there to people, I now get a lot more like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Or do you want to go out for dinner tonight? Or it's a lovely day. What would you like to do something? So I am finding that I'm getting more of the connections that I like instead of having to plan like weeks in advance. And then I would find that like knowing I had dinner plans on Friday night was very heavy for me. Like physically, it felt very heavy in my body and I didn't necessarily want to do it. And all of a sudden I would feel like panicked because I had this commitment when really all I wanted to do was like stay home and watch TV because I had been busy. And like I said, I'm an introvert. So even though I love my friends, sometimes like just the heaviness of like knowing that I have to make conversation can sometimes feel like a lot. So looking at the add and reduce. In the wellness coaching program that I took, we actually look at the 4 systems that I spoke of. So the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual in order to add aspects to that and reduce. So oftentimes, like I said, my physical is really great. Like I'll be working out tons and I'll be eating right. But then when I look, I'll have a lot going on in the physical and I don't have perhaps much in the spiritual or in the mental. So how can I cut back some of those physical pieces and add in order to add so that my life is more balanced? And I have found that to be very positive in my life. And it's actually helped a lot in my relationships, not just with my friends, but also with my parents and with my husband, being able to look like holistically. And I find that I'm a lot less stressed and I'm a lot happier because I'm doing a lot more of the things that I really enjoy doing. So that is called the add and reduce model. The next is based on a hypnotherapist who I absolutely love. Her name is Marissa Peer. And Marissa Peer is on a mission. And her mission is the mission of I am enough. And I actually did a workshop with my coworkers. And it was the first time that I've really put myself out there in a learning environment and introduced something completely outside of the scope of the work that I normally do, which is I'm a digital literacy consultant. So I do a lot of work with digital tools, ed tech tools, and also around like innovative practices for learning. So things like design thinking, a new technique from the Rotman School of Business that I've been working with, integrative thinking. But this time I was like, we're going to talk about thoughts and thought patterns and mindfulness and meditation. And we looked at one of Marissa Peer's videos, and she talks about the practice of I am enough. And the idea is that most of us in the world, or perhaps even all of us, hold back because we do not believe that we are enough. So Marissa talks about saying to yourself every day, I am enough, telling other people they are enough, reminding yourself, I am enough. And she has some strategies and techniques that she shares, and the stories are magical and funny, and she's a celebrity hypnotherapist. If you've never heard of her, definitely check her out, and I'll link up the actual video in the show notes, but you can just Google I am enough. So the idea of sharing with other people that they are enough, of saying to people, you are enough, and of reminding myself that I am enough. And I just want to share with you that you are definitely enough. Number 5 is breathing and noticing. So breathing and noticing is really the idea of like paying active attention at least a couple of times a day to the way that you are breathing, and then working to do some deep breathing and noticing your breath throughout the day. Breathing is incredibly beneficial for us, and many of us do not take the time to breathe correctly. With the noticing as well, it is noticing thought patterns and releasing thought patterns. So if I notice that I'm getting agitated or irritated or angry, or I'm starting to go to negative thinking, I will notice what I'm doing. I will do a couple of deep breaths. I often might hold my chest or I might hold my stomach. I'll breathe very deeply and then I'll let it go, because we actually have the ability to control our thoughts and our emotions. And if I notice myself becoming a certain way, I have the ability to change that. This has been incredibly beneficial every day when I get into my car at 7:30 in the morning and I begin my hour-long commute on a highway to my job. Because every morning I encounter traffic. Right now there's tons of construction and I just need to breathe through it. And I need to be okay when I get to work instead of arriving agitated. I'll also do this when I get like an email that I feel the tone is kind of off on and I'm getting a little bit worked up. I'll notice and I will breathe through it and then I'll let it go. And we all have the ability to do this in our day-to-day, but a lot of it is really being actively aware and mindful of what's happening for you. Now, it doesn't mean that like I never get angry or irritated or that I'm 100% on it all the time, but this has actually changed my relationship with my husband, and I'm just going to put it out to the world there so that everyone knows that Chris and I have been together for 10 years. He makes coffee every single morning, and on the weekends, he brings me coffee in bed because I get up after him. So pretty much every day, without fail, he's the one that makes the coffee in the morning. I am super grateful that he does it because it's ready by the time I want to drink it. So he gets up before me often, makes the coffee, has a shower, and then I get out of bed and it's ready. I can start drinking it. It's fantastic. However, he's not super great at cleaning up the coffee grinds on the counter. And it used to irritate me like crazy. Like I would get angry in my head, not outwardly angry, but that's how I would start my day. Instead of, enjoying this lovely thing that he does, I would get mad about the coffee grinds. We can't change other people. I'm never going to be able to change him to clean up these coffee grinds. However, I can control my reaction to that. And now my reaction is one of breathing and noticing, and then of gratitude. So of realizing that it makes me upset, of letting that go, and of being thankful for what he does for me and how he tries to make my life better. Number 6 is binaural beats. Now, this actually came from episode, I think it was number 8, which was 5 strategies for reducing student anxiety using sound with Shanila Shatter. And in that episode, I learned about what sound can do to your body and to your mind. And it made sense. I mean, we all have songs that you hear and you're instantly happy and you want to dance, songs that make you sad. Sound has a great impact on us. And I started to do a little bit of research. And again, feel free to do your own research. But if you remember the sort of overarching principles of wellness coaching, one of them is to be open-minded. So I was like, I'm going to give this a try. So there are 4 known categories of frequency pattern, and those include delta patterns, which is associated with dreamless sleep. There's theta patterns, which is associated with meditation and creativity. There's alpha patterns, which encourages relaxation, and there's beta patterns, which promotes concentration and alertness. So if you go to YouTube and you just Google binaural beats, you will see tons and tons and tons of different types. So I kind of worked through different ones to see what worked for me. And I actually found that one of them really increased my productivity at work. So if I was working on very specific types of tasks, I would just put on my headphones, play the binaural beats for concentration, and just like get in the zone of working. And I found that was really incredible. However, I would find that I was incredibly tired at night. So the concentration beats, I feel for me, also made me incredibly sleepy, which isn't a bad thing because I was having some great sleep. I would also listen to binaural beats in the evening just before going to bed. So I would maybe like lay down 30 minutes before bed and just put on my headphones and listen to some binaural beats specific for relaxation and binaural beats for energy. So there's a whole bunch of different types. I also found that some of the higher frequency ones actually like physically made my body sort of like do things. Like my stomach would almost like pulsate. So you're definitely gonna have to give it a try and see if you have any kind of reaction to binaural beats. I also went and saw a sound therapist for something called a fork tuning, which was also a very interesting physical body experience. The first fork tuning session that I went to, it was like, I'm just going to say like an alien was trying to get out of my body. Like my back was doing things that it was very fascinating to me. I just couldn't control. And after my conversation with Shanila, I wasn't like 100% sold on what different frequencies can do to your body. But the more I explore it, the more I am realizing that different frequencies definitely change the way I feel. And it makes sense. Like when I am by the ocean, I feel incredibly calm. And the ocean has like a particular sound to it. When you're in nature, you often feel incredibly calm, and nature has a particular sound to it. And those sounds actually have like particular frequencies. So it makes sense to me. There's still some of the stuff around like the science that I have a hard time with, but you really have to explore it for yourself. For a while, I was using binaural beats very consistently, and now I'm using them a little bit less consistently. I noticed the other day that I hadn't used it in a while, and I thought I should really bring that back. So I'm going to, again, do them at work when I really need to get into the zone. So that is binaural beats, and you should definitely check it out. There's lots of benefits. And in fact, if you check out medicalnewstoday.com, and again, do your own research to see how much of a valid source you feel this is, but the benefits of binaural beats are listed as reduce stress, reduce anxiety, increase focus, increase concentration, increase motivation, increase confidence, deeper meditation, and improved performance and mood. And Shanila she also spoke about those benefits, and that's like what she does for a living. She works with sound and people and using sound specifically for mindfulness and meditation. Number 7 is a practice that I started using not because of my wellness coaching, but because I was noticing some things about my default system. So my default system, for example, is like if I'm in the living room and I am sitting on the couch, I am more likely to turn on the television and watch TV, even though I might not be interested in watching TV, even if when I sat down, my intention was to read or to do something else. And then I heard about James Clear and his book, Atomic Habits. I picked it up and I read it. It is an incredible read. I highly recommend it. And one of the things that James Clear talks about is the idea of habit stacking. So he talks about like our habits based on environment and how we are more likely to engage in something if our environment has been set up in a way that we consistently interact with it in a particular way. So I consistently sit on my couch and watch TV, which means I'm more likely to watch TV when I'm sitting on my couch. So in order to read, I created a space in my house where I consistently read. So the habit stacking is the idea of taking a habit you already have and adding another thing onto it that you would like to have become a habit. So for example, I started off doing mindfulness meditation when I was walking my dog in the morning because I already walk my dog. That's a habit that I have. I have to do it. I have to take him out. If I don't take him out, it'll be bad for everybody when we get home. And I love him. I would never do that to him. So I walk my dog in the morning. The walk is it's a short walk. He's a small dog. So it's only really like a 15 to 20 minute walk. And that's a habit that I have. So in order to begin my mindfulness practice, I started doing the see, hear, and feel technique while I was walking my dog. Habit stacking. So looking at your life and the things that you already do and figuring out how you can add a habit to that thing that you already do. So another way that you can add like mindfulness into your day is if you do it while you're brushing your teeth. Probably everybody listening brushes their teeth twice a day. So if you were to do a mindfulness practice while you're brushing your teeth. And that is the idea of habit stacking, taking something you already do and adding something else onto it. Every morning, I spend about 10 minutes sitting on my couch drinking my coffee. If I decided that I wanted to read in the morning or I wanted to journal in the morning, that 10 minutes is probably a good time because I'm already drinking my coffee. Right now, I just drink my coffee and I pet my dog. But I could drink my coffee and read or journal, and that would be another form of habit stacking. And then number 8 is having a weekly date with yourself. And I know many people listening will be like, I don't have time to date myself. I am busy. I work. I have a family. I have things to do. But finding time just to be with yourself is super important. And I was looking at my life in terms of like the add reduce model. And one thing that I realized that I was missing is I no longer had time or I wasn't making time for creativity. So my background is in visual arts. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in media. So not drawing and painting, but like film and photography and experimental design and audio. And that for a long time was like something I really loved. And then I got a job teaching people how to use computers and being on a computer all day. So coming home and being on my computer is not something that I want to do. But I wasn't making time for creativity. And creativity can be an incredible way to get into the flow and to get into the zone and to re-energize yourself and to work through emotions. So the date with yourself does not need to be something creative, but I decided that I wanted to have more of a creative practice. Now, this is not a time where I am learning something new. I don't have a specific task that I'm working on. So I'm not sitting down saying, today I would like to paint this picture or I would like to get better at portrait drawing. It's really very experimental. So I set up my space. I set up my material. So it might be something like paint or it might be drawing medium. I really like collage. So I might set up my collage materials. And then I put on my binaural beats or other music and I just start creating. And for 30 to 60 minutes, I will just spend making something. Sometimes I set a timer. And at the end of it, it doesn't matter what you've made. What matters is that you've gone through the process. And one of the things that I would teach my visual arts students is to actually create without thought. And one of the ways that we would create without thought is we would have like a process that we have to use. So for example, one of the processes that I use with my grade 12 visual arts students for them to engage in creating without thought is Google the first word that comes to mind. Pick the third picture in the Google search. Pick the first color you see, use that color to paint with. So a process that, has no thinking involved in terms of like, what color am I going to paint with? What am I going to do? And it's like a strategic practice, but it means that you have a sequence of things that you're going through and you just pick out something to do instead of spending time thinking about it. So I've actually been actively doing that with myself about once a week. Sometimes I'm not great with it and it's once every 10 days, but spending that time for my own personal creative release has been very important. And there you have it. Those are the 8 different tools and techniques that I have been using pretty much consistently since I became a wellness coach. So just to go over them again, we have the see, hear, and feel mindfulness meditation technique, the loving kindness mindfulness technique, the add and reduce model, IMNF, breathing and noticing, binaural beats, habit stacking, and a date with yourself. So thanks so much for listening to this journey of wellness for me. And if you have any questions about any of these strategies, please reach out on Twitter at Idea Smashing. Rob, I hope you took away something for your book. And if you want to chat more about it, just let me know. And if anyone has any questions about wellness or they want to talk through anything that came up for them while they were listening, reach out. I'm happy to chat. and I am now a certified wellness coach. That's all for now. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening.